Welcome, everyone, to the PFF Fantasy Podcast, IDP edition, the very first episode of our weekly IDP previews. And now that it's finally week one, we are here to go game by game to talk some defensive football. And I say we because I'm not alone to talk IDP this time. Joining me from the IDP show, he's a tremendous presence. He is also him, Adam Marcum. Addy, what's up, brother?
It is he. It is I. What's up, man? It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Love you, love PFF. This is a beautiful thing right here, man. I'm super excited. And then, yeah, we got football this weekend, dog. Like, life is very good at the moment.
Yeah, I'm so excited, man. The off season is always so long, and we talk so much about what to expect for the regular season that it's nice to actually finally get some games this week. And excited to talk IDP because we don't always get to do that in the PFF Fantasy Podcast feed, but we get to do it now once a week to preview the week ahead. So I'm excited to do this with you. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll have different IDP guests and everything as well throughout the season, but very honored to have you on here as the very first guest of the show. So we're basically going to go, like I said, we're going game by game to preview week one. We're looking at like potential situations to target and avoid, IDPs who are maybe flying under the radar, talking some of the rookie and ambiguous situations we'll be monitoring, and much more. So we're going to get into it here. But before we do, I want to give a quick shout out to our presenting sponsor, Fabric by Gerber Life. Fall is about the back to school and back to routine checklist, and the most important task on that list should be securing your family's financial future, starting with life insurance. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it quick, easy, and affordable to protect your family so you can get back to enjoying life. Fabric was designed by parents for parents to help you get a high-quality, surprisingly affordable term life insurance policy in less than 10 minutes. Fabric has flexible policies that fit your family and your budget with quality policies like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Get your personalized quote in just minutes and then apply when it's convenient for you. It's all online and on your schedule. You can go from start to covered in less than 10 minutes with no health exam required. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/fantasy. That's meetfabric.com/fantasy, meetfabric.com/fantasy. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. All right, let's kick things off with the game that's going to kick off the NFL regular season, Thursday Night Football between the reigning champs, the Kansas City Chiefs, led by 2022 MVP and Super Bowl MVP Patrick Mahomes, facing off against everyone's favorite IDP, Alex Anzalone. Addy, Chiefs, Lions, what's the first thing you're kind of looking forward to in game one of this NFL season?
Gosh, man. Excited to see Aiden Hutchinson year two. What does he look like from year one to year two? I mean, that's the big thing. And then, the Chiefs, they have some interesting things going on right now. Chris Jones, is he going to get a deal done before this game kicks off? And if not, you're going to see a lot of the young guys on that defensive line, like FAU, Felix Anaduke-Uzama, George Karlaftis. We've already seen, a lot from him in year one. What does he look like in year two? So a lot of question marks on that Kansas City defense. But yeah, man, there's so much. We have so many things to talk about.
Yeah. This is the nice thing about like the preseason nonsense is kind of over with now. And now we get to kind of jump into like the actual games, the actual usage to kind of get a feel for what to expect for this season, because you never know in the preseason, like for example, the Chiefs specifically, right? Like their linebacker usage, right? So was basically in this preseason exactly the same as it was last year, right? We saw Nick Bolton as the team's every down linebacker, LB1. Willie Gay was the LB2, playing, around that 75% snap share. But Drew Tranquill, who they signed this offseason, and somebody that was a super strong IDP last year, was basically relegated to a backup role. They've been talking about using him on special teams for this game. So it doesn't seem like he's going to be factoring into the defense at all, but that's another one to potentially monitor here. Will Drew Tranquill kind of factor in at all with the linebackers. I don't know that he is. It's at least to the point now for week one where I'm just not trusting Drew Tranquil in my lineup. It's basically Nick Bolton being the main one, but maybe Willie Gay, but that would probably be the guy that Tranquil rotates with if there is any kind of rotation there.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, Nick Bolton is probably the only Chief that I feel comfortable really starting this week, right? I mean, L'Jarius Sneed, he's been banged up, and it sounds like he could be on a pitch count. Karlaftis, I do like Karlaftis, but that's a tough, matchup. Lions O-line, they rank number 5 according to Sam Monson here at PFF. Trip McDuffie, I guess, is a solid option if L'Jarius Sneed is hobbled. There's been a lot of speculation that maybe he mans that slot role this year, which is always really productive for us in IDP. Justin Reed, he's someone that I've been targeting quite a bit in these best ball drafts this offseason. I think that he could have a much better year 2 there in Kansas City. But, I mean, there's just not, outside of Nick Bolton, there's just not really much I want or I'm excited about. I mean, obviously you're going to start a lot of these guys like in your deeper leagues, those leagues that we're in, like where we start like 4 or 5 defensive linemen, 4 or 5 defensive backs. Like, you'll start most the guys from this team in those situations. But in your typical leagues, like Nick Bolton is really the only one that I feel great about.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially with Chris Jones. Like, I don't think he's going to play. Like, it just seems like too tight now to get a deal done and get him out on the field. So, I mean, you're not playing like his backups, right? Tershawn Wharton and Derek Nottie, not in IDP leagues. You just don't really do that much with the defensive line position, getting the next man up in your lineup. So I'm with you. I think Nick Bolton is pretty much the only one that you're starting. We'll see what the usage is for, McDuffie and Sneed. If they both play, will McDuffie take over that slot role from L'Jarius Sneed that was so profitable last season? So there's at least a few things to kind of monitor here, and then we could maybe add a few more Chiefs to the starting lineup as we go throughout this season. But looking at the Lions, I mean, you mentioned Aiden Hutchinson off the top. I'm with you. I think that is the star on that defense right now. So excited for him. But looking at the linebacker situation too, like Alex Anzalone, we didn't think that he would be the starter again for this season after they spent a first-round pick on Jack Campbell. But it looks like Anzalone, once again, going to be the every down starter, at least for week 1 and probably early this season. But the LB2 role isn't even Jack Campbell. It doesn't seem like. It looks like Derek Barnes is the potential favorite to start this week. It's not usually an every down role, that second linebacker spot in Dan Campbell's defense. So I don't know that Derek Barnes is going to be that effective outside of deeper leagues. But any interest in Derek Barnes here for this week?
Lord, no. No. What year is it? Good God.
I know.
He's back. He's back, folks. Yeah. But yeah, it didn't go well the first time. I mean, I'm not that optimistic about it right now. He's just a placeholder for Jack Campbell. I mean, they're going to get Jack Campbell in there at some point. If you want, if you're in the situation where you're starting Jared Davis week 1, I mean, I don't know. You may just want to go ahead and pack it in.
Yeah, Derek Barnes. Yeah,
Derek Barnes. Sorry.
Yeah, same guy basically. They're the same picture. But yeah, Jack Campbell. I mean, look, he's already jumped last year's like off-season hype linebacker Malcolm Rodriguez on the depth chart, it seemed, at least from what we saw in the preseason. So I think it's a matter of time before he gets on there as like at least the secondary linebacker for this season. But Derek Barnes right now, it looks like he'll probably start week 1, but I don't expect it to be a full-time role. And again, this defense, not great for linebacker tackle efficiency either. So just to kind of keep an eye on and maybe a short-term solution for deeper leagues.
Yeah. I love this. I love the safeties. I love the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He's like a must start pretty much in any format. And then, I don't really mind Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch in the leagues where you start, 4 to 5 defensive backs. I just really like the safeties they got there in Detroit, man. Really versatile players, can do a lot of different things. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson brings a juice that was severely lacking there. Just a great fit in Detroit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I think Gardner Johnson is going to be a lot of fun. He gave us a scare earlier this offseason with the injury, but looks like he's going to be ready to go. So that'll be nice to see. And he kind of reunites with his old defensive coordinator from New Orleans too. He'll probably play more in that slot role this year, which gives those guys, like you said, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, maybe some more of those safety snaps as well. So another one to kind of keep an eye on. And yeah, I'm with you. Definitely start Chauncey Gardner Johnson. He is very effective IDP when he's out there on the field. All right, let's get into the Sunday slate here, and we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals at the Washington Commanders. So the first thing that kind of stands out for me in this game is the Cardinals linebacker situation or lack thereof. Basically, it's Kaiser White and Josh Woods who look like the two true off-ball linebackers right now. And Jonathan Gannon does have a history of like two nearly every down starters at linebacker. So there could be potentially a role for both of these guys. I don't know that the LB2 spot, so Josh Woods maybe will be as productive just because it might not be as heavy as a role as Kaiser White is expected to play. So we might see him kind of sub off the field a little bit more. But look, I mean, obviously, the main reason that there is a lack of linebacker options in Arizona is because they traded away Isaiah Simmons, who was playing defensive back anyway, so it didn't matter. But Zaven Collins is making a full-time switch to the edge this year. So this is a position that he's never played that much of in his career. So they're giving it a try. I don't really have interest in Zaven Collins this week. I haven't really been interested in him at all this offseason because of all this. I think it's just way too much of an unknown. And I don't think we're expecting, anywhere close to like a Micah Parsons level of effectiveness. So there's just way more edge options that I'd rather roster at this point. But yeah, other than that, I mean, look, we like Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson's solid, but I think the main IDPs, we're not really looking at their defensive line. At least I'm not anyways. Do you have any interest in the Cardinals defensive line?
Oh, Dennis Gardeck season, baby. Let's ride.
Barbarian, you're right.
No, I mean, we do love his hair. He's got great long hair that it gets to us. We love those long haired boys. But I mean, I don't mind Zaven Collins. I mean, this is it's an interesting matchup. It's not like the Commanders O-line is that good. They rank 27th. And I mean, we've seen this happen before, right? We've seen this happen in Arizona with Hassan Reddick. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's a chance that Zaven Collins, this is what he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be an edge rusher. I mean, if you run his measurables through the RAS simulator, like it spits back like a 9 point something. Dude is an incredible athlete. I don't know. I think he's interesting. Like in a lot of leagues, he's still listed as a linebacker, so I'm not crazy about that. But if your league has already switched him to a defensive end or he's listed as an edge, I don't mind him as like an edge 2 or 3, like just a nice little dart throw. But I mean, yeah, the dude has no help. I mean, so he is going to be the focal point, I think, of the game plan.
Yeah, it's a super interesting situation to kind of keep an eye on and see how he does. But look, he actually was like a good pass rusher in college, like more as a blitzer, as an off-ball linebacker. So we didn't really get like that full-time edge role, but there's no reason that like he can't succeed. He has the good size, like the measurables, like you say, the athleticism. So there's at least a chance there. I've always just found in drafts he always went a lot higher than what I was looking for. So that's why I kind of ended up avoiding him pretty much. It was the cost more than anything. But yeah, I'm with you. It's an interesting situation. We'll see if he can actually kind of break out there as an edge now. But other than that, I mean, Arizona's really not that interesting. We don't have to spend too much time on them, but we could look at Washington at least, because I do like their matchup this week. You mentioned that Washington's O-line is ranked pretty low. The Arizona Cardinal O-line is even lower. They're ranked 31st here at PFF heading into the season. So I love the Washington defensive line this week. This is a team that ranks third on our defensive line ranking. So really two teams on complete opposite ends of the spectrum here. You add in a complete unknown at quarterback with Josh Dobbs now announced as the starter. So there's just opportunity here for this defensive line to eat this week. I have Montez Sweat as my edge 7 this week. Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, both high-end DT options. I think I have them both inside the top 10 for their position this week. We don't know if Chase Young is going to play or not. It would be a nice game for him to kind of play so that he can get back on track potentially here against a bad O-line and against like a kind of unknown quarterback, even though we have seen Josh Dobbs a fair bit, but somebody that maybe is not as good. So yeah, how about you? What are you thinking here for matchups?
Yeah, totally agree. I think Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, both DT1s in true position leagues, solid DL2s in your sleeper leagues. Montez Sweat is a strong edge 2 play this week. Your boy Cam Curl, I think he's a back end safety 1. Derek Forrest is also a solid safety 3-4. I thought he performed okay, from a fantasy standpoint. He put up 88 tackles. He averaged about 10 points per game. Jartavius Martin is interesting. He's apparently manning that slot role, and that can be profitable for fantasy, especially if he has like a cornerback designation. So yeah, I mean, that's really, and also Cody Barton. I'm a big fan of Cody Barton. I've loved his value. I know you like Jamin Davis, but yeah, I mean, I think both those guys are solid plays this week too.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Barton as well. I think too, like the value for him versus Jamin Davis has been a lot better too. And Jamin Davis hasn't been a bad value for the most part this offseason, but yeah, Cody Barton an even better one. And he's potentially the one that's going to kind of sit in the middle of the field there while Jamin Davis kind of chases around receivers and stuff like that. So he could potentially be in for some better tackle weeks than Jamin Davis, even if he doesn't play as many snaps, which is kind of nice for people that do have Cody Barton. I would definitely be firing him up as well. So yeah, I like it.
One more for Arizona that I was thinking about.
Go for it.
Cam Thomas is interesting, Right. I mean, Majay Sanders is on IR right now. How much they trust BJ Ojulari to, make an impact right away. I mean, Cam Thomas he was limited last year, but it was 70.5 overall PFF grade. He had a 15.9 pass rush win rate. That was 19th best among edge rushers. He had 19 pressures on 155 pass rush snaps. That was a 12.2 pressure rate. So, I mean, that's fine. It was his rookie year. He was pretty productive in college too. So, I don't know. He's kind of in that same mold of like Zach Allen, JJ Watt. He's just like kind of, one of these doughy white boys that may be sneaky productive.
I'm with you. I mean, look, there's not going to be many players that play as many snaps on the defensive line for Arizona as Cam Thomas and probably Zaven Collins as well. So I think those are the two guys. Like if you're targeting anyone from that defensive line, those are probably the guys that you're going to have to make do with. But yeah, I it's probably deeper leagues most likely, just because I think he's another guy that I've seen go undrafted a ton in drafts this year, at least for redrafts. So an interesting name, at least to keep an eye on. If he starts to show something early in the year, we like the snap share and everything as well. I mean, you could definitely pick this guy up as a waiver wire target and plug him in when needed. So yeah, I like the call there for sure.
Times get tough, man.
Oh yeah. Regular season, they'll do that to us. These injuries and bye weeks start to pile up quickly.
That's right.
All right, Addy. Let's move on to the next game on the list, the Houston Texans at the Baltimore Ravens. Any favorite IDPs in this matchup for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jalen Petre, that's an obvious one. Will Anderson Jr., man, I already feel pretty good about him, right? I mean, yeah, maybe this is too soon, but I don't know. I feel like Anderson's locked in. He's not leaving my lineup. He's going to get a ton of snaps immediately, and there's just too much weekly upside. I'm already like scared to go against him. You see him across from you in the opposing lineup. Yeah. He's just one of those types that can get like 3 to 4 sacks in a week. So, I mean, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, he's probably one of like maybe 2 rookies that I actually feel comfortable starting this week if I need to. He's still to an extent still a bit of an unknown, and the Ravens offensive line is actually, one of the better ones this year. I think we have them ranked as number 4 going into the season. Plus you got Lamar back there, who could be kind of slippery. But I'm with you. I think Will Anderson absolutely should be a starter in most IDP leagues here. And I think if he shows out well this week in a tougher matchup, he's somebody that's going to be moving up the ranks pretty quickly, I'd imagine, for me. So I'm with you. Will Anderson is definitely a player to keep an eye on in this one. How about the Texans linebackers? I know we're on the same page here with Denzel Perryman, but where would you be starting Perryman every week this week, or
Yeah.
at least for this week?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he's a top 20 option pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
I think me and you are going to be higher on him than most people, but man, I mean, if you got him, smoke him. That's kind of the how I feel about Denzel Perryman, because you never know if he's going to stay in the lineup for long. He does get banged up. That's really the only rub with him, but boy, the dude knows how to tackle. I mean, look at those numbers there on the screen.
Yeah, he's a beast. He barely played last year as well, like you said, right? But it still was posting strong tackle numbers, strong first contact numbers, tackle for loss and no gain rates as well. So I do want to see, if we get like equal snap shares for these Texans linebackers between Perriman and Christian Harris. They're the expected starters. I have Perriman ranked higher, have him as LB 17, so inside that top 20 range, like you said. If Perriman gets a larger workload than Harris, or even if it's close enough, this is one of like you said, the most effective tacklers in the league. And then you look at D'Amico Ryans' defense as well. He's deployed one of the most like tackle friendly defensive schemes during his time at San Francisco. So this could be a massive like boost for Perriman's IDP value after last season, where it was a little bit down, right? So I'd be, less excited if it was Christian Harris who emerged as kind of the clear LB1 there in terms of snaps, just because he's not nearly as effective, or at least he wasn't last year. So we might see that inefficiency kind of hurt the situation a little bit more. But yeah, like I said, Perriman LB 17 for me this week, just expecting that kind of similar snap share between the two and knowing how effective he can be. Plus, even though the Ravens are expected to pass more this year, they're not going to completely abandon the run game either. So that helps as well for him, because he's an excellent run defender.
Yeah, and I do kind of expect Perriman to get less snaps. I think he's more of like a 70 to 80% type guy at this point, right? He's a little limited in coverage.
Sure.
But he's 30 now, I think. So I could see them giving Christian Harris 100% of the snaps and letting him work through his, just his mistakes that he's going to make. Because that team knows where they're going, right? I mean, I think they realize they're not competing this year, so I think they're going to let him kind of have a decently long leash. But we saw the PFF grades last year for Christian Harris; they were not good. I think they were in like the 28 range.
He was the lowest graded linebacker last year.
So I mean, there is a chance, there is that risk with him that he could be replaced. And you see them go with the other rookie, Henry 20202020202020.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, they did spend another pick on an Alabama linebacker to replace their current Alabama linebacker if he does continue to be inefficient and ineffective the way he was last season in limited action. So yeah, I'm with you. I think there's definitely a potential there for Harris to play more snaps early on in the season, but hopefully Perriman could keep it close and get those tackles that we think he can do here in 2023.
But understand, folks, it don't matter. Like, we still want Perriman at 70% versus whatever Harris is going to give us, because I mean, that dude's just a baller.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't have the player card for Christian Harris last year, but he was performing well under expected. Perriman was the NFL leader in tackles over expected in 2021. Even on limited snaps last year, he still performed well in that regard. So I'm excited for him this year. I think he could be another IDP resurgence here. Other than that, I mean, Baltimore, we kind of know, right? Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. Tyus Bowser's not going to play on the edge. He's out for this game. So they got Jadeveon Clowney and Odafe Owe and David Ojabo. Not guys that I'm probably starting this week outside of deeper leagues, but Kyle Hamilton's probably the last one I think that's super interesting for IDP. If we can, get that Derwin-esque usage that we expect from him. I think that, the sky's the limit for him as an IDP, because getting utilized in the box as a blitzer, we saw him as a super effective tackler last year as well. Just did everything well, was one of the highest graded safeties in the league, 2 unlimited snaps. So if we get him in a full-time role now and get that ideal box usage, he could be a super interesting IDP. And I have him ranked pretty high for this season.
Yeah, he feels like a must start going forward. Also, don't mind Marcus Williams, his
Right.
safety mate back there. I think he's a solid safety 2 or 3 for you. We saw him have some monster weeks last year and really was on fire to start the year. Then he got hurt, but still was solid to close. So I don't mind him. Love him in best ball, of course. But yeah, I mean, it is a really nice matchup. That Texans O-line is ranked 25th, rookie quarterback. I mean, Ajabo and Owe, I mean, we'll see what type of snap share they get, but I mean, you can't really ask for a better start to the season. Is Marlon Humphrey going to be out for this one?
I believe he's questionable. So I haven't seen his status kind of clear up yet. It's still Wednesday, so there's definitely potential there for him to get out there. But yeah, he's another guy that could be interesting, at least for a cornerback streamer too, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Patrick Queen is still, I don't know if you mentioned Patrick Queen, but he's still fine. I mean, he's still a solid, I don't really want him as my linebacker 2, but I mean, he's a fine LB3 start.
Yeah, I think that's where he kind of fits in the best, right? Is kind of in that LB3 range, because it might not be an every down role, but it was pretty close last year, even when Roquan joined. So we'll see if they keep that going this year. So that'll be one to watch as well. All right, let's look at the 49ers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So for me, I mean, there's a couple things, at least with Pittsburgh to start, right? Like the linebacker 2 and the safety 2 for the Steelers are probably the interesting ones to kind of monitor here. I feel pretty good about Cole Holcomb kind of being an every down player in this defense, or at least close to it. I'm not betting the house on it or anything, just because of how the Steelers deployed their linebackers last year, but feel better about him now than I did when they signed him this offseason. But the other Steelers linebackers are probably more interesting to monitor, between Landon Roberts and Quan Alexander. I just worry that neither of them will be trustworthy IDPs, just based on the usage we saw this preseason, which did favor Quan Alexander just slightly. I'd probably be avoiding both guys this week if I can. I only have Quan Alexander ranked as like LB56. I didn't rank Landon Roberts, just trying to avoid those guys if I can. And the similar situation with the safeties in Pittsburgh. I trust Minkah Fitzpatrick, but it was mixed usage between Keanu Neal and DeMonte Casey for that second safety spot this preseason. So we'll see how that one shakes out here in week 1, because I think there could be potential for like decent box snaps for one of those guys if they can emerge as an every down starter. We just didn't get kind of a clear signal either way if one of those guys is going to be the clear starter here in week 1.
Yep. Agree with everything you said there, man. Also, I think Joey Porter Jr. could be someone that's very relevant for us in quarterback required leagues. His dad is Joey Porter. Got that dog in him.
He's got the dog. That's right. Yeah, he's going to be a lot of fun, man. I can't wait to see him. He looks pretty fun. And yeah, I'd be willing to stream him for sure. And look at a decent matchup against San Francisco. I know we'll see how Brock Purdy does back as the starter here for week 1. And I know they're potentially missing some guys on offense, but yeah, I still like that as a potential streaming option. And then look, defensive line, we know who they are. We're firing up TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward. Those guys are going to play for us. But on the San Francisco side, Nick Bosa was looking like potentially he was going to continue his holdout, maybe not play in this game. Today, San Francisco made him the highest paid defensive player of all time. He signed a 5-year, $170 million contract. This is a weekly top 5 edge, so we don't really have to, analyze too much for Nick Bosa. We're starting him up regardless of matchup. On the other edge, though, Drake Jackson, kind of an interesting one to monitor this year. See if he gets maybe a much bigger role than what he had as a rookie. I think there's opportunity there for him. But then, yeah, I love Javon Hargrave still, regardless of matchup, and Eric Armstead, maybe a nice play in deeper leagues at defensive tackle as well.
Yeah. Yeah, Talanoa Hufanga. I mean, he's a
Right.
great play at safety, and then they have some pretty good corners too there. Charvarius Ward,
Hmm.
he was really solid last year. He's always been solid. And then Diamador Lenore, one of the more
Yeah.
fun names to say, but he was really good too in cornerback leagues.
Yeah, yeah, I like both of those guys. I had them both, I think, ranked inside my top 24 corners. Ward, I had pretty high. I think I had him like CB3 going into this year because, yeah, I love him. I think he's an excellent IDP. And yeah, Hufanga, another great one. I think I have him at safety 13 heading into this week. So right on the fringes of that safety one range. He is questionable. I think him and Deshaun Gibson are both questionable. They picked up those tags today. So hopefully at least one of them plays. If not, that's like the rookie Jair Brown. And I think George Odom is the other backup there. So probably not guys that we're going to start until we actually see it from them. And then we, of course, know the linebackers, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. We're going to be starting them every week as well. All right, let's go to the Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. Adam, what do you think about this Jeremy Chin situation heading into 2023? Is he somebody that you're interested in for this season or even for this week at all?
No, I wasn't really into him last year. I was telling everyone that they need to get rid of him. He's no good. I didn't trust him. Just something about him. I don't know, man. He's just, I don't know. I just don't think he's a good person. I thought the hype was a little bit overrated, and that's just
Yeah.
anytime we see these safeties get, I don't know, hyped up like that in whatever community you're in, it's always a good idea to sell. I mean, it's just the shelf life year to year. You never know. You just never know. I mean, it's always anytime you can cash out top dollar, you should do it. And that's kind of the story of Jeremy Chin. Came in ultra productive right away, and then it's just been a steady decline ever since. And now he's kind of getting messed around on snaps. Like, I know it's preseason, and maybe the coach just doesn't want to show what they're doing, but it's not great. And I mean, there are other good safeties there. I mean, it's a crowded safety room with Xavier Woods and Von Bell. It's just, I don't know. He wasn't someone that I was targeting. I mean, the ADP hasn't made sense for a while, in my opinion. So, no, don't like Jeremy Chin. Although now would be a chance to potentially maybe get back in, right? I mean, he's been worse so much forever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if someone is scared, if he does start the year out and is getting like 60 to 70% of the snaps, I mean, people are going to be terrified of this dude, and willing to sell. I think maybe for a lot less than what they would have.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're a believer in Chin, yeah, now would absolutely be the time I think to get in on him because I mean, the preseason usage was definitely concerning, right? Like he played very limited snaps, even when the rest of the starters were on there. He was rotating on and off for an extra pass rusher, played primarily in the slot while Xavier Woods and Von Bell manned the two starting safety spots. So there's pretty much no chance I'm starting Chin this week. He's just not worth it if that playing time is less than 70% of snaps. And even if it's like 80% of snaps, there are so many more safeties that we can start each week that are playing 100% of snaps. So it's not worth it. If Atlanta only plays 50 offensive plays, that you're screwed, right, with Chin because he's not coming near the production opportunities that are needed to be that weekly starter. So I'm with you. I'm out on Chin for this week, but yeah, again, if you're a believer in him, now would be a decent time to kind of buy low. But yeah, just things aren't looking good right now for Chin. So other than that, Carolina, Brian Burns, questionable, still holding out potentially. That's kind of concerning as well if he's going to play or not. We hate that because it leaves a lot of question marks about, heading into the week if that situation doesn't clear it up. Hopefully, with the Nick Bosa contract coming in, maybe, we start to see some of these other guys sign and Brian Burns obviously being one of the top guys as well. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, a little bit concerned for Brian Burns this week. He is listed as questionable.
He did it in a weird way, right? I mean, he did all the training camp, he did all the offseason stuff, and then he's holding out now.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
just kind of odd. I mean, if you're the Panthers, do you kind of regret not doing that trade with the Rams? You know, I mean, I like Brian Burns. I think we all like Brian Burns, but I don't like Brian Burns enough to pay him 25, 30 million. I don't think,
Yeah.
especially that Carolina team who, I mean, I don't think they're contending for a while, at least. I mean, maybe,
Right.
maybe Young is way better than we think, but I don't know. I just feel like that offer that they apparently got from the Rams, man, it looks like
Just 2 firsts or something.
yeah, I think so. And the Rams, that's not a franchise that's going anywhere. Those would have been high picks.
Yeah, I don't know what the Rams were thinking there. They're just throwing picks away at this point. Yeah, Brian Burns maybe would have helped them like with the roster that they have. You look at that defense now, though, and it would have been him and Aaron Donald and literally
Yeah.
nobody else. So right now it's just Aaron Donald and nobody else. But yeah, I'm with you. It's a weird situation to start the holdout now. I don't know if it's gonna affect him for week one. We'll see. We still got a few days here before they actually have to play, but it's at least something to kind of keep on the radar because there's not really too many defensive linemen in Carolina that are worth kind of targeting other than him. So, yeah, I love the Panthers linebackers as well. Frankie Louvu, Shaq Thompson, you know, again, this week as well against a run heavy team like Atlanta. I think there's opportunity there for decent production for them. But let's look at the Falcons quickly here because Troy Anderson and Caden Ellis, I think their deployment is going to be an interesting one to watch. You got their new defensive coordinator there, Ryan Nielsen, coming over from New Orleans. So that's where Caden Ellis played last year. And he did play a little bit on the edge. He had some more blitz opportunities there. That's how he led all linebackers in sacks last season. So maybe that potential for Ellis to play on the edge and get those pass rush snaps is still there. But I do, at least for tackle production opportunities, I have a Troy Anderson ranked a little bit higher until we see kind of exactly what that usage and deployment looks like in Atlanta. But how about you? You like both these guys? One of them? None of them?
No, I love them both, dude. I'm ate up with them. Was drafting the hell out of them this offseason. Troy Anderson was LB 28 in these IDP only best balls we were doing.
Wow.
And folks, I've been referencing those a lot. We did about 75 IDP only best balls this offseason and collected all the ADP and everything from it. So we got some really good data. We had some really good drafters. Like every draft was for money, so people were locked in. You know, it was none of that silly mock shit that people trying to use as ADP. But yeah, Caden Ellis, I mean, another just amazing value. He was LB 33. That dude averaged 16.7 points per game, weeks 10 through 18. That was LB 10 over that stretch. So I think he's a rock solid LB2 this year. Yeah. You like them both, I guess, as well?
Yeah, I like them a decent amount. If I'm getting them as my LB, a lot of the times they're my LB3, just because of the way that the drafts have shaken out. So Ellis, I've noticed, has gone a little bit higher. I've been a little bit higher on Anderson, but either one really, I think, has the potential here, and I think that deployment could be nice for them both this season. I think they should both play near every down roles.
Yeah, and they're perfect linebackers for the way we draft, right? Because we want to kind of load up on those elite edge guys early and often, and then you have, I've talked about it on the IDP show a lot, but man, those linebackers like 24 to like 48, it's just so good. There's no sense in spending up for a linebacker this year. I kind of like the idea of getting like one bona fide stud in the first 3 rounds, you know, whether it be like Roquan Foye in the first, Devin White maybe into the second, Bobby Wagner, but then just waiting and getting a handful of those types. The Caden Ellis's, the Troy Andersons, the Levante Davids, the Aziz Al-Shir was in that range. He's kind of been, you know, everyone's in on him now, but David Long, Jerome Baker, I mean, Kaiser White, there's just so many good ones.
Yeah, there's literally a ton. And yeah, that's the range to kind of do it, right? Because it's just, again, especially for redraft leagues, right? Like I get it for best ball, if people want to kind of aim a little bit higher for linebackers because they can't actually go out and replace them on the waiver wire on best ball. Redraft, you just got to pay attention to the waiver wire. You'll be able to get, you know, next man up, and that production is going to be pretty close from, you know, what we usually would get from our starters, right? So that's the main thing for me when I do redraft leagues, is just waiting on linebacker, get some of those values later on, and just load up on the high end edges. So yeah, we're the exact same there.
I didn't even mention Denzel Perriman.
Denzel Perryman was another one for sure. He was way late. Yeah.
He was my favorite of the group.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's go to the Battle of Ohio here. Cincinnati Bengals at the Cleveland Browns. I think, the main thing that I'm watching for in this game is that Browns linebacker deployment. So again, kind of coming back to the linebackers a little bit, but it was a total pain in the ass last year. We never knew who to trust week to week. At least, maybe with Jim Schwartz coming in, we could potentially get some more stability in that rotation. I'd expect it to be Anthony Walker and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah as the snap leaders. I'm just hoping that it is a clear deployment, but I'm not overly optimistic that it will be. There's probably going to be some Sione Takitaki mixed in there as well, but that's going to be the main thing that I'm watching for is the Browns linebackers to see if we can get anybody that we can trust this year, because last year there was nobody.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we could see solid year from JOK.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and at this point, like everyone's kind of out on him anyway, so it's not like he costs that much. I'm pretty sure he was like being drafted like in the linebacker 35 to 45 range. So
yeah,
people are kind of fatigued with him. I was scooping up a ton of Anthony Walker, but you never know. Like that's always that dude gets banged up all the time too. Like you never know. But yeah, one of those teams that I'm just not really excited about.
Yeah.
At linebacker, at least. So on the defensive line, I mean, I'm pumped. I mean that team is a lot of fun now. Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Obo. He could have a really nice year there as that third guy, and he actually may be kind of good, dude. I mean, looking at what he's done from a PFF standpoint, 75.1 overall PFF grade, and this is Obo Okoronkwo. Probably not pronouncing that right.
That's actually pretty good. I think that's exactly how you pronounce it.
I think that might be the best I've ever done, honestly. I usually let Bob handle that name because he's a former Rams guy. But yeah, 75.1 overall PFF grade. That was 29th best among edge rushers. Posted a 13.4% pressure rate in 2022. That was up from his career pressure rate of 12.9%. So I mean, pretty good, man. And if something were to happen to Zadarius Smith, which he's, I think, approaching 30, might be there. He could be very good. I mean, he could be someone that we look up and has 10 sacks.
Yeah. He's a really fun player and really good. He's a decent pass rusher, right? And they're gonna get him out on the field too, right? Like when they get to those third down obvious passing situations, I think they've already talked about moving Zadarius Smith inside and playing Okoronkwo as that third edge, basically opposite Myles Garrett, while Zadarius Smith rushes from the interior. So there's going to be potential there. I love what the Browns did with their defensive line this offseason. I've talked about it a bunch of times, but adding those three new key contributors who all had pass rush grades above 79 last year, Zadarius Smith, Obo Okoronkwo, and Dalvin Tomlinson as well. So I think they'll be a much better team at generating pressure this season, which should also help Myles Garrett keep racking up sacks. Maybe we get two Browns defensive linemen that hit double-digit sacks in the same season for the first time in forever. That would be nice. But yeah, Obo maybe more in deeper leagues to start off. But if something happens, obviously with Garrett or Zadarius Smith, that's one of those situations where the next man up would be more interesting for a defensive line replacement for IDP.
Yep. Also interested in Juan Thornhill. I mean, he's someone that, maybe a fine DB 4-5 in your deeper leagues. Although, I mean, do you have any clarity on that situation? I know they have Rodney McLeod there as well. Does it seem like Thornhill is it going to be Thornhill and Delpit, do you think?
Yeah, it looks like it's Thornhill and Delpit. I think Rodney McLeod was playing with the backups in the preseason. So Thornhill looks like he'll be set as the starter. Delpit was dealing with an injury, but he's healthy now. He's not on the injury report. And he's somebody that I've been high on this offseason as well, because I like Jim Schwartz's defense to play, more of that single high look. So Thornhill maybe playing more of the deep role, but Grant Delpit should get a lot more opportunity down in the box as well. So love that for him too.
Yeah, sorry, Josh. I think Josh has a lot of Rodney McLeod. So.
Does he?
Yeah. Just wanted to get that in there for him.
Perfect. Yeah. Hopefully, maybe he'll get an injury or something, and he'll be able to get him into his lineup.
That's right. Let's root for that.
Yeah. But yeah, for the Bengals, I mean, this is a team that really the only thing that's changed for them was their safety situation, right? Just Jesse Bates and Von Bell are out. Nick Scott comes in as a potential starter here. It looks like he's going to be the starter with Dax Hill as well. So I thought, maybe Jordan Battle would have a chance to be a week one starter as a rookie, but was not the case. Nick Scott wins the role, and look, he's going to be a decent IDP, I think, because these guys play every down, the way the Bengals use their safeties, and one of them is going to have maybe a potential for more box snaps than the other, whoever gets that Von Bell role. We didn't get like exact clarity on that in the preseason, but we should get that a little bit here in week one, at least to maybe get an idea which one to target more if we're looking to start one of these guys.
Yeah, totally agree. That's exactly what I said here. Just one of those wait and see approaches. Let's see how they produce. Let's see how they produce. Let's see how they're used. But yeah, I think that there's going to be, probably some IDP goodness there. We've seen it in that safety room for 4 or 5 years now at this point. Also, I like Cam Taylor-Britt quite a bit this year. I've been scooping him up pretty much in all my cornerback leagues. He was pretty productive down the stretch. Seems like a one of those cornerbacks that's pretty good at tackling. So I like him quite a bit as a cornerback target.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good call. All right, let's go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Minnesota Vikings. Adam, what is it in this game that's caught your eye?
Well, I mean, it's definitely going to be the linebacker situation there in Minnesota. I know that's exactly what you're thinking about too. I mean, Ivan Pace Jr., he was insanely impressive in the preseason. I mean, there was great buzz the entire camp, and the room is just not scary. I mean, it's Jordan Hicks and it's Brian Asamoah, and the coach is a hard ass. I mean, this is like Ivan Pace Jr. is the perfect type of player for Flores. One of these undrafted guys, like that's going to play well with someone like Flores. He's going to want to it's going to make him feel good to get this undrafted guy out there ahead of this 3rd round pick that from the previous year. But I don't know. I've picked up Ivan Pace Jr. in plenty of leagues at this point. I am kind of scared about Asamoah. But I don't know, man. I mean, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, this is a group for at least for week one. I'm essentially completely avoiding even Jordan Hicks. Really, I think he's the highest ranked for me, but I put him at LB50 just to kind of again tell everybody else to kind of avoid him. I just don't love like this Flores defense for tackle production already. And now you add in like the kind of messiness to the situation here with Ivan Pace emerging. And, maybe Asamoah at least starts the season ahead of him. And Ivan Pace is really just kind of the 3rd linebacker there. Who knows? The preseason didn't really tell us that much for the situation. But, I think if we factor in, Pace a little bit into this defense, it's going to cut into the snaps of somebody. It's either Asamoah or Jordan Hicks, right? So it's a situation basically I'm avoiding completely for week one. And we know this is typically more of like a 1 linebacker system as well, and more man coverages, more blitzing. So all of that kind of stuff sinks tackle efficiency. So a bit of an avoid for me. But I do love Ivan Pace, and I hope that he becomes IDP relevant. Right now, just happy that he made an NFL roster and looks good doing it. So, what else do we have? Minnesota. So just staying in Minnesota here, Harrison Smith is probably the guy that I like a lot because of this Flores defense. Probably the main beneficiary of it for me, just coming in. Potentially more single high looks for the defense. So I think Harrison Smith makes the most sense to come down, play a lot of the box snaps, and get some of those blitz opportunities as well. So he's been somebody that I'm higher on this year. And I know he's getting older, but that also pushed his ADP like way down the board. So he was a value to scoop up for most of this offseason. So other than that, defensive line, Danielle Hunter. And I know we're both kind of still in on Marcus Davenport, the potential resurgence there for Davenport. We'll see what happens. I kind of believe that there's potential there for him on a new team. The pass rush metrics were still there last season, not as much as they were in 2021, but there's room for positive regression here for Marcus Davenport.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's a fine edge 3-4 on most weeks. This is a tough matchup here against
Yeah.
Tristan Wirfs, but um, yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if we see Marcus Davenport have somewhere between 7 and 9 sacks this year.
Yes, let's get it. Would love that. Yeah. And then Tampa Bay, the linebackers we know, Levante David, Devin White, not too much to go into there. The safety, we mostly know Antoine Winfield, but then Ryan Neal's coming in now as a starter. He's somebody that I like as well, that I think could get a decent amount of usage in the box. So somebody that I've been higher on. I think I have him as safety 7 this week, so I'm a lot higher on him for this year or for this week as well. So anything else for this game stand out for you?
Yeah, I love both those calls. I said with Antoine Winfield, it doesn't matter where he lines up. Some people, well, I know we do care about the box snaps and all that stuff. It doesn't matter in his case. I mean, that dude is going to produce wherever he is. Love Ryan Neal. I think he's a rock solid safety 2 this year. Carlton Davis is a strong cornerback 1-2 in true position leagues. I haven't really been targeting a lot of Shaq Barrett or Joe Tryon, but I mean, I think both of them are fine edge 3-4 plays this week. I know the O-line rank is kind of middle of the pack, 15th overall. But Kirk Cousins was sacked 46 times last season. So that was tied for 3rd most in the NFL. So, I mean, we could see Shaq Barrett or Joe Tryon get to him. Vita Vea, he's a fine defensive tackle too. What about Kalijah Cansey? Do you think that we see him early on, or?
I would hope so. I think there's a chance that we see him maybe more as like a pass rush specialist early, and maybe they use like Greg Gaines or as a run defender, even though Greg Gaines not like a great run defender, or at least he wasn't last year. I think there's going to be a role for him, maybe in like big play leagues. But yeah, he's somebody that I like quite a bit, Kalijah Cansey, at least coming out of college anyways. And it's a decent landing spot for him because, yeah, Greg Gaines not great. I think there's opportunity. Vita Vea is going to get his snaps because he's Vita Vea. But yeah, I week 1, I'm probably not starting Kalijah Cansey, but I think there's definitely potential there for him to be an option this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cansey's one of those guys that we could maybe see, as like a top 10 defensive tackle here by the end of this season.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because look, he was getting the Aaron Donald comparisons. If he comes out and is even close to that as a rookie, what Aaron Donald did, I mean, we'll definitely be excited about that. So I'm with you. Kalijah Cansey, an exciting player, and we don't get a lot of those on the defensive interior. So definitely somebody to kind of keep an eye out for defensive tackle required leagues. All right, let's go to the Tennessee Titans at the New Orleans Saints. You mentioned him earlier, Azeez Al-Shaair. He's the new LB1 here in Tennessee. I'm good with starting him this week. I think I have him as LB25, so a little bit lower than I probably usually would, but he's at least startable for anybody. You don't have to consider him in that range. It's just where everybody else kind of fell in the rankings. I think the interesting one here is the defensive line for Tennessee, because Harold Landry should be back, locked in as a weekly starter. I have him as edge 15. I know he's coming off the torn ACL, but this is a volume monster, right? Coming off injury is always tough, but Tennessee leans on these guys heavily, right? So he could be out there and play 900 to potentially even 1,000 snaps if he can stay healthy, because he's done it before and they've got that from him. And if he even starts to show a little bit of improvement as a pass rusher, I mean, those numbers can be massive. They could be Max Crosby-esque, right? So yeah, I love Harold Landry. Jeffrey Simmons is the other one in DT required leagues who are pretty excited about. And I know you're interested in Arden Kia. He's somebody that I like as a deep flyer as well. I think there's potential for him. I've been adding him where I can as well. So interesting team, Tennessee.
Yeah, with Harold Landry, I mean, his injury, he's already had like a full year to recover. It happened, I think, in the preseason last year. So yeah, and everyone says that the guy looks great. The guy was clearly working his ass off, when he was recovering. So yeah, he's like one of the few people that I'm drafting that's recovering from a major injury. Basically, everyone else, like the Jordan Brooks, Rashawn Gary, Shaq Barrett, no, I don't want any of them. But yeah, Harold Landry, yeah, I'm not really worried about him. Like you said, I mean, should get tons of volume. He's always been a guy that has a really nice tackle floor. I mean, the guy, he's out there a ton. He is kind of like a little bit of he was at least a little bit of like a Max Crosby light, you know.
Yeah.
So
Max with 1X.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I like that call. The Nico Autry, the guy's
Right.
continuing to ball. I mean, he's a fine, edge 3-4 for you. And then Amani Hooker, I know a guy that we both kind of like. I mean, he's someone that has struggled to stay healthy, but he's productive when he's out there, and he was playing a ton of slot last year. So that's a nice little role for IDP production.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. Kevin Byard as well. And then we didn't mention the LB2 in Tennessee, but it looks like Jack Gibbons is going to play that role. I don't know how big that LB2 role is going to be in Tennessee. We don't expect it to be a full-time role because this was one of the more dime-heavy teams in the league last year. And look, Jack Gibbons isn't necessarily, a known commodity in the NFL and somebody that they'll probably want to play in an every down role. So I'd expect maybe closer to, that 60 to 70% of snap range for him. So probably just a deep league play there for Jack Gibbons. And then on the New Orleans side, I like the defensive line matchup. I mean, PFF's 32nd ranked offensive line is the Tennessee Titans this year. So these guys, I think Cameron Jordan, Carl Granderson, typically probably going to be on the fringes of weekly starters all year, but I think you'd want them in these plus matchups and potential for kind of these big blow up games because they're going to have a few throughout the season, but maybe not as consistent as some of the other high end edges. But this is one where I think I really like the matchup for Cameron Jordan and Carl Granderson.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Granderson was pretty good last year, 12.8 points per game, weeks 10 through 18. That was 30th among all edge rushers. And then, yeah, I mean, Cameron Jordan just always a great option. Always, he's always been slept on, dude. Even at this point, he's still someone that I think you can get him as like your third edge just because, I mean, he is 34, but he's still producing.
Yeah. He's another one of those guys that just doesn't leave the field, right? They just roll him out there and he does what he does and gets production by default, basically just by playing so many snaps. So you do love that for Cameron Jordan. And then linebackers, Demario Davis, Pete Werner. I think it'll be good to see kind of Pete Werner command that LB2 snap share consistently again. He got hurt last year, kind of ended up mixing and matching with Caden Ellis after that. But before he got hurt, he was a really solid IDP before that injury. So even better than Demario Davis, who played more snaps than him during that span. So Pete Werner is somebody that I'm still pretty high on for IDP. And I think he could be a nice producer here, especially even in week 1 against Tennessee, who's one of the more run heavy teams in the league.
Demario Davis had some type of like soft tissue injury, I think, early on in camp. I haven't got any updates on it lately or looked into it, but just something to, he is up there. He's very old himself. That team is old as hell. I mean, they have, some of their key defenders are like our age. It's kind of, not a great spot to be in.
Don't want to be our age, though.
No, it's the worst. Honey Badger, someone that he deserves more love. I think he's a rock solid safety too this year. He had 3 20-point games in 2022. That was tied for 5th most among all defensive backs. Also, don't mind Marcus May. I mean, he's someone that you can get pretty much for free. He's a solid safety 3, I think. And then one of my favorite cornerback targets is Alante Taylor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Taylor's a good call because he'll probably get an opportunity in that slot role as well. So definitely somebody that you can plug in there in cornerback required leagues, and he should be a solid producer for sure. All right, let's go to one more 1:00 game here, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Indianapolis Colts. Adam, this game, anything interesting for you, at least for week 1?
Yeah, I mean, Trayvon Walker, what's he look like in year 2? I mean, that's a big one. Devin Lloyd, what's he look like in year 2? After Devin Lloyd's always a good reminder. He's good. It's good to humble all of us. That dude started out red hot last year, like the first 4 weeks, tearing it up on the stat sheet. PFF grades were fantastic. Your boy was out here crowning him as like LB1. And then week 5 comes and this guy stinks. Maybe, I don't know. We don't know. So yeah, it was a lot. It was a roller coaster of emotions last year with Devin Lloyd. So rooting for him to, be that linebacker too there, but he does have Chad Muma breathing down his neck. So, I mean, he's not someone that I've targeted at all this offseason. I don't think I drafted any shares of Devin Lloyd, even though he wasn't really that. I mean, he was going like in the LB 30, probably to 40 range. So, I mean, that's not terrible, but still, like we mentioned, there's just way too many better options. Like Kaiser White's going after this guy. I want Kaiser White every day. They're just not, there's just too much risk there with Devin Lloyd.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, right? It's the risk. We don't know how stable that job is going to be. We saw it taken away from him last year. Chad Muma stealing snaps, right? So we'll see if it's going to be the same thing this year, if those guys share the LB2 role. But I mean, hopefully, at least some of the stuff that I saw this offseason was that they're gonna give him the chance again to kind of be that every down guy. So we'll see if that actually comes true or not. But yeah, it's just there's too much risk there because we did see it get taken away already from us. So we're kind of we've been burned before at least. So yeah, Jacksonville. Other than him, I mean, look, Foye Oluokun, we know we're starting every week. This guy's like a locked in top 3, IDP tackler here. He's an absolute machine. But
he's pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, the other one, Josh Allen, is interesting to me on the edge. It's not necessarily the best matchup against the Colts, but I still have him as edge 10 right now. I just think the volume and the pass rush metrics are hard to bet against here, even against that potentially top 10 offensive line. But yeah, Josh Allen would be somebody that I would still be playing in most leagues.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, contract year. I mean, he's, I think 20, is he 26, 27? He should be entering his prime. I mean, he's going to be getting paid somewhere. I don't know what Jacksonville does there.
Right. Yeah. It's year 5, right? So this is a big year. So I mean, it would make, they don't, other than Trayvon Walker, look, it's not going to be Kayvon Chason that they pay and use as their edge 1, right? So I think Josh Allen makes sense for somebody that they could pay. I think he could have a big year this year. I know he's only hit double-digit sacks once in his 4-year career so far, but all the metrics point to him potentially getting up over that hump again this year. So I love the potential for him. I think he could be a double-digit sack player, so still high on him. And I think the Jaguars would be smart to kind of keep him in-house, especially with Trayvon Walker, who is definitely still developing and coming into his prime. It might not be this year necessarily, but next year as well. If you can have the two of them in their prime like that, that's a pretty lethal combination. So definitely excited for him. Shaq Leonard for the Colts, just moving over to that team. I don't know if this man's ever going to get healthy. If he isn't, he's still in the concussion protocol, I believe. But if he doesn't play, it's going to be Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed as the linebackers there in Indianapolis. Have you drafted any Shaq Leonard this year?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I wish I would have drafted more EJ Speed. I mean, I did not believe at all in Shaq Leonard staying healthy, so I probably should have done that. But yeah, I'm just out on Shaq Leonard, dude. It's ever since he changed his name.
That's just true.
It's all been
Darius
downhill.
was much better.
Yeah, we want Darius back, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I know. It's been a bummer. Hopefully, he could get back to Darius levels of production again, but we'll see.
People still loved him though. I mean, he was still going way too high, and like early on, eventually, like everyone kind of was like, "All right, we're gonna stop drafting this guy." I think it eventually settled like in the 20 to 30 range, but still, like I had that dude ranked like as linebacker 40. I think just someone that I'm just not touching unless he just really falls to me. Yeah, that's how I'm the same way with like Jordan Brooks, all those types that are going to be recovering from injury or have been dealing with injuries their entire career.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's just again, there's a lot of risk there, and the cost was still mostly too high for most of this offseason. The back injury stuff is scary as well, but Yeah, Indianapolis. I mean, I like Julian Blackmon. He should be playing that strong safety role in Gus Bradley's defense, which could create some nice tackle production. So he's been somebody that I've been in on this offseason. But and Kwity Paye, I love Kwity Paye. DeForest Buckner for DT
Yep.
required leagues, even DL leagues, it is a solid play. And Samson Ebukam maybe for deeper leagues, I think has some potential there because he's a solid pass rusher as well off the edge.
Yep. Yeah. Kenny Moore. I mean,
Kenny Moore.
I expect him to bounce back. Last year was, I'm pretty sure, the worst year of his career fantasy wise. Dallas Flowers in leagues that reward return yards. I think he's going to be starting at corner and also getting the return yard work. So, I mean, he could be a nice little cheat code for you. Grover Stewart, he's a fine option in DT required leagues. And then, yeah, I mentioned what type of role does Ebukam get. And then Dayo Ode
Ingbo.
Yeah.
That guy.
He was solid last year too. I mean,
Yeah.
they have an interesting little rotation. How is that going to get cut up?
Yeah.
We'll be interested in that for sure.
Nice. Love it. All right. Before we keep going with more, let's get a quick shout out in here from our friends at DraftKings. Can you believe we've had 7 months without an NFL game? Crazy, right? Well, good thing that's over. NFL is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't miss offer for week 1. This week, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any NFL game. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every single game day with this September. Check the app to see what you get. Download now and use code PFF to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code PFF only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.co/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposits restrictions apply. All right, back to the games here. The Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears are next up on the list. I have a few things kind of noted here. So I'll start with maybe the safeties this time in Green Bay. So Rudy Ford is another, maybe one of those under the radar starters at the safety position. Him and Darnell Savage are looking to be the starters in Green Bay. Nothing too exciting here, at least for where I have them ranked. I have them like safety 40 and safety 58. There's just so many of these guys. So I want to see them show us something first before plugging them into any kind of lineups. But at least for, again, deeper leagues, Rudy Ford and Darnell Savage could be potential options there for safety. But the main thing I think for Green Bay, Quay Walker versus Devondre Campbell is kind of been the big discussion this offseason. I know so many people were drafting Quay Walker over Devondre Campbell this year. And I get that, he's younger, he's more exciting, he's the first round pick heading into year 2. I'm just, I guess, still skeptical that he's taken over that LB1 job here in Green Bay already. Especially considering, Devondre Campbell's still a very good linebacker in his own right. Also much more experienced. So while it's bound to, happen at some point that Quay Walker takes over, I don't know that it's this year. I'd probably be pretty shocked if it was week 1 here, but hey, you never know. I have Campbell ranked as LB12. I have Quay Walker a little bit lower than that, but still think it's like one clear every down role in Green Bay and maybe one like 80% range role. But how about you? How are you treating these linebackers here in Green Bay?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I do kind of like Quay Walker quite a bit. I mean, Devondre Campbell was kind of a bummer, honestly. Like, I mean, he got hurt. So, I mean, how much of that was him just not being right and his usual self? I don't know. But, I mean, he's got another good linebacker there to contend with. I like the upside of Quay Walker. I think Devondre Campbell, though, is your more like steady, like tackle guy, right? Mm-hmm. Quay Walker, though, could be the type that does both, get you the tackles and the big plays. I've said recently on the IDP show that I would not be surprised if we get to the end of the year and we all kind of consider Quay Walker as like a linebacker 3 in Dynasty, a top 3 linebackers. It's just you could easily see it. I mean, Devin White could continue to suck PFF wise. I mean, Nick Bolton could take a step back with all these damn linebackers there. I mean, there's definitely room for someone to move up there. Foyer's getting older now. Foyer's, I think, going to be 28 by the time next year, rolls around. Roquan's 27 at this point. So, I mean, there's potential for one of these young guys to vault up there into the top. And Quay Walker's a really good candidate. But, I mean, both of them, fine options. I didn't really draft a lot of them because, I mean, I'm in a lot of leagues with, freaks like you and Josh, and you guys are all super high on Devondre. And I get it. I do like him. But like we mentioned, there's just so many linebackers that I love in those mid rounds that I don't get attached to any of them. I just take whichever one falls. But yeah. Devondre is a great option this year. I mean, it's a really good week for the Packers defense. That Bears O-line is ranked 21st according to PFF. Justin Fields was sacked 55 times last year. That was tied for first with Russell Wilson. Yeah. So, I mean, Rashawn Gary, he's going to be on a pitch count, but I mean, he could get a sack or two, on 15 to 20 pass rush snaps. I'm not going to start him, but that could happen. Preston Smith, I mean, I think he's a solid edge 2-3 this week. Kenny Clark. He's like a solid defensive tackle too, just because, again, Justin Fields gets sacked all the time. So I don't mind that. I mean, I'm not going to start someone like Lucas Van Ness or anything like that. But yeah, I expect that we see Fields to get sacked a little bit this week. So you can do worse than this group.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice matchup to try to take advantage of here, especially for those Packers on the defensive line. And I'm with you. I'm not starting Rashawn Gary because of the pitch count thing, but he's definitely somebody that I've been high on for Dynasty. He has all the pass rush metrics behind him as well, so hope he can get back healthy. But I'm not starting him for at least a few weeks until we start to see it from him. But in Chicago, at least, looking at their defensive line, not a unit that I really care for. Even Yannick Ngakoue, probably like deep leagues only. He's going to line up against David Bakhtiari this week. Bakhtiari was the 5th best pass blocking offensive tackle last year. Didn't allow a single quarterback hit or sack all season long. And Ngakoue is also coming off his lowest pass rush grade of his career, 56.9, despite hitting those double-digit sacks again. But we know sacks aren't stable. The pass rush metrics are. So don't chase those sacks year to year. So not a defensive line that's over interesting for me, at least outside of like super deep leagues.
Yeah, I said Yannick is like a edge 3-4 type, and someone I'm only starting in deeper leagues. But boy, oh boy, not much on this defensive line to get excited about.
Yeah, it's rough, man.
So I'm with you. Very tough scene. Obviously, though, I mean, we love TJ Edwards. We love Brisker, Tremaine Edmonds. Kyler Gordon is a great option for you in cornerback leagues. Eddie Jackson also was really good last year in that system before he got hurt. But yeah, outside of those guys, probably not going to be starting anybody. I know we're all kind of secretly rooting for Jack Sanborn to appear behind TJ Edwards and like snap his neck. But we'll see how that shakes out.
I'm not. I'm hoping it's maybe Tremaine Edmonds that he replaces, because I love TJ Edwards, and I've wound up with way too much TJ Edwards shares for that Jack Sanborn attack to happen.
You're right. But I don't have any Tremaine. We can kill Tremaine. That's fine.
Yeah, man. Jack Sanborn, super efficient IDP last year. That was crazy to see. So, there may come a time where we put him on the waiver wire column this year if one of these guys goes down. So, like you said, nothing too much interesting there in Chicago outside of those guys. So let's go on to the Miami Dolphins and the Los Angeles Chargers. Adam, in Miami, who's the man you're looking to watch this season?
Mr. Jalen Phillips, the the chain god,
That's right.
the turnover chain god, man. This guy is yeah. I mean, I think whenever you think of Adam IDP, I think you probably are thinking of Jalen Phillips. My boy Jake Colhagen just recently got me the most ridiculous Jalen Phillips shirt that I've ever seen, and yeah, it turns me into a different person when I wear it. But I mean, I think if you're looking for a Max Crosby candidate in 2023, it's Jalen Phillips. I mean, it's all there for him. I mean, all the metrics are elite. And then you just watch the guy play. Like the dude has a motor. You ever listen to, I like to listen to interviews. I also like to watch like players mic'd up just to kind of see how their teammates and how, just how they talk, how people interact with them. You can kind of get a good vibe on players. And Jalen Phillips is one of those guys that he's just a dog, dude. Everyone loves him. He raises that defensive line. And yeah, I mean, I love that Miami defense. I mean, I think they are thin. They have to get lucky with the injury stuff. But I mean, if all those guys can somehow stay healthy, I mean, that's as good as a defense as there is. And they have one of the best defensive coordinators really of all time. I mean, this guy is someone that most people are trying to emulate these days, but they have the dude. So just a really good defense, top to bottom. I mean, Christian Wilkins, one of the better interior defensive linemen in the league. Bradley Chubb, who I expect to kind of bounce back and remind folks who he is. And then, I mean, we love David Long. Jerome Baker could be pretty solid this year for IDP. And then Javon Holland, someone that I like quite a bit. I mean, someone that you can get as a value and he has really nice big play upside. And his role is kind of, I don't know what type of role he's going to have. I mean, he's done a lot of different things. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being like a box type guy. I don't know. I haven't looked at the usage numbers lately for him. But it's a really good defense. I mean, I didn't even mention Jalen Ramsey coming back at some point. Right. You still got Xavier Howard. So it's a really fun unit. They just got to stay healthy. But I mean, that's a team that they could be a Super Bowl contender. I mean, it's Tua's got to stay healthy. The defense has got to stay healthy. But I mean, if everything lines up for them, I really think that's one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, I actually agree. I mean, this is a team that they have all the pieces in place, right? And you got, like you said, that Fangio defense now. So for IDP purposes, at least, maybe we get some more consistency and reliability there, at least out of the linebackers, right? Because that'll be the thing that I'm kind of hoping to get some clarity on it. Who's going to play a little bit more, whether it's Jerome Baker or David Long in that defense. It seemed like it was Jerome Baker in the preseason, but I like David Long quite a bit. I think he has the potential to be that LB1 there. And yeah, Jalen Phillips, man, can he fulfill the prophecy? I'm hoping so, because yeah, I'm with you. Very high on Jalen Phillips this season, and he was somebody, yeah, just that I just loved like coming out to. Joey and I both had him as our edge one in that rookie year, and we couldn't understand why most, like, it wasn't a consensus edge one in that season, because I know he had the injury stuff, so I think that played a part in it. Like, he did retire for a season because of concussions, but he played a full year going into that draft, and he looked healthy. He looked great. He looked like the clear, like, top edge in that class. So now that we get to see him doing that in the NFL, it just makes me more excited for him. I hope he can get to that big season that we're thinking he can.
Give me a number. How many sacks?
I'm going with 12 and a half.
I love it. Yeah. I think I said 13 on our flag plant episode.
Love that. Yeah. If he can get to that range, I mean, that's perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. Not quite a sack a game, but not many players do get a sack a game. That's extremely rare. So that is exactly what we're hoping for him.
We do need him to get there as well, because I mean, he was someone that, I mean, the secret is out on him. Like, he was being drafted like mid first by the time the season is winding down. I mean, he wasn't making it to the third round, that's for sure. So yeah, everyone is banking on this dude to actually be the next Max Crosby. So I'm here for it. I think it's going to happen. I just good vibes in Miami right now. I love what they're doing.
Definitely. Yeah. And I got like 15 fantasy teams that are depending on it at least. So let's hope so. And look, the safety situation, you mentioned it too. Javon Holland, definitely the clear starter there, but I'll be interested to see with Brandon Jones. He's another guy coming back off an ACL, but somebody that was like a really, really good IDP. And I just got like the sleeper notification because I have him in a bunch of leagues too, that he went from questionable to healthy. So looks like he's off the injury report, which is good to see. And Deshaun Elliott was playing with the starters in the preseason. So we'll see which one of those guys kind of emerges as safety too there beside Javon Holland as well. For the Chargers, we got, well, Derwin James, a safety one. We're not benching him if you have him. But Eric Kendricks is probably the only Chargers linebacker I'll trust this week, but he's not really like one of my preferred targets. Just again, it's not a great defense for linebacker production, and we've seen Eric Kendricks kind of dip in efficiency as he's gotten older, so he comes in like ranked a little bit lower for me. So yeah, but other than that, I mean, Joey Bosa for sure, but just a great, oh, and Khalil Mack as well, but a
Yeah.
really great cornerback streaming game too, right? You mentioned Xavier Howard, Cater Kohu's another guy there in Miami that's going to play a ton. Eli Apple potentially plays a bit. JC Jackson in LA, Michael Davis, Asante Samuel, those guys for the Chargers. I think going to be a pass heavy game. So love the corners for that. This is definitely one of those cornerback streaming games for me.
Yeah, big year for that Chargers defense. I mean, Staley's really got a he really needs that unit to perform. I mean, that's that he's the defensive brainchild, and that team has not really lived up to expectations. I mean, that playoff loss is one of the worst of all time, man.
God,
Jeez.
crazy.
But I do like this defense. I mean, I think Khalil Mack is due for a nice little bounce back. I think we could maybe see like his best season that we've had in a while. Eric Hendricks, he's a fine LB 2-3, like you mentioned. Not interested in Kenneth Murray at all. I do expect Deion Henley to emerge at some point. Sebastian Joseph Day is interesting in defensive tackle required leagues. He's like a defensive tackle 2 type. Any interest in that second safety there in LA? I mean, I know that they had Nasir Adderley retired, and it was going to be
Alohi Gilman is now the
Yes.
starter there, right? So yeah, not as much, not really. I just think it's Derwin's team, right? He's going to be the guy that plays everywhere, where Alohi Gilman just kind of be like a statue as the deep safety back there. He'll have a couple games this year where he has a big play or something like that, but consistently on a weekly basis, he's outside of the startable range for me. Again, it's such a deep position that there's so many other situations and deployments that I'd rather target that I'm not as interested in Gilman.
That's the correct answer, John.
Thank you. All right, let's go to the Philadelphia Eagles at the New England Patriots. One of the main things for me, what is this defensive line rotation going to look like? I think Hassan Reddick is questionable coming into this week. I don't think there's any doubt that he'd be the snap leader there if he's active. But then we got Josh Sweat likely next up as far as snaps go, would be edge 2. But then Brandon Graham and Nolan Smith kind of on the lower end for opportunities, I'd imagine. But that doesn't mean that they can't be productive. They're both like really high end pass rushers. Nolan Smith looks like he could be a lot of fun. Just think, you'd rather wait for maybe a better matchup to stream Nolan Smith or Brandon Graham this week. So neither one of those guys really on my radar for the Eagles D line. It mostly would be Reddick or Josh Sweat. And then the linebackers are interesting. Nakobe Dean, we know, is going to be wearing the green dot, should be the full-time player there. But Zach Cunningham comes in and wins the LB2 role. Nicholas Morrow gets cut. Cunningham, we know, has been one of the best tacklers in the league as long as he's starting. So it seems like he'll probably get a decent-sized role, I'd guess somewhere maybe around 85%. So I think that should be more than enough to make him a starter in most leagues. I have him, as LB35 right now, just to see what that snap share looks like exactly. And Nakobe Dean's LB13 for me, but Cunningham could definitely be interesting this year if he holds that job for the entire season.
Yeah, I have Cunningham as the LB 4-5. I put wait and see. Still hesitant to crown as the LB2 here. And then, yeah, Nakobe Dean, I expect him to be like a linebacker 2 this season. Josh Sweat's a nice edge 2 for you. Hassan Reddick, he has 39.5 sacks over his last 3 years. That's third most behind only TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. So we do got to give the homie a little bit of respect. He's been really good. Maybe this is what Zaven Collins is going to do someday.
That would be nice. That would be really nice.
Jalen Carter, he's a strong defensive tackle too, I think. Yeah, I mean, what's the rotation going to look like? I mean, they just have so many good players at edge and at defensive tackle. What's that pie look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. There's great players there, and there's a few we could trust consistently. But other than that, I think we're probably looking at streaming options for better matchups. The Patriots' offensive line is still decent. At safety, kind of interesting. Reed Blankenship looks like he's probably going to get a start next to Terrell Edmonds for the Eagles, but not guys that I'm overly excited about. So looking at the Patriots too, like this is another team. I mean, it's basically the usual suspects that we rely on for weekly starting spots, but there's not many of them. It's Matthew Judon on the edge, Kyle Duggar at safety. I think Juwan Bentley at linebacker in deeper leagues. That's probably about it for me. Maybe Jabril Peppers gets a bigger role this year. Maybe Josh Uche sees more snaps. Maybe Christian Barmore gets a bigger role as well, but just not players I'm betting on, especially against, the Eagles offensive or against the Eagles offensive line, which is ranked number 1 in the PFF ranking. So not for this week anyways, until we see it for those other guys.
Yeah, lockstep with you. A tough matchup, but you can't sit Matthew Judon. Guy is averaging 60 tackles and 14 sacks over his last 2 seasons.
Beast.
Duggar is a safety 1 option. Juwan Bentley is a nice linebacker 3. Marcus Jones could be once again a league winner if he gets more defensive snaps this year. If he's just a return guy, he loses his appeal. But I mean, it seems like he's starting out as that third cornerback. So I mean, that's great if that sticks. Josh Uche is a fine edge 3, probably only starting him in those deeper sleeper leagues where you have 4 or 5 defensive line spots. If he was on any other team, we would be super excited about Josh Uche. 16% career pressure rate, always graded out well, set a career high last year, 83.1 overall PFF grade. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that Bill's just got to be so annoying about this stuff.
He loves his rotations, man. Even the corners, right? Like those corners don't even play full-time roles, which is rare in the NFL. So
they're all named Jones.
All named Jones. He loves those guys. He used to have Chandler Jones as well. Probably tried to get Arthur Bones or John Bones Jones.
He might be able to get Chandler. We'll talk about him.
Yeah, that's true too. But yeah, man, the Patriots can be super frustrating for IDP. They could be frustrating for offensive fantasy as well, of course. But yeah, those are the guys for sure. So let's move on to the Rams and the Seahawks here. Anybody interesting for you in Rams and Seahawks game?
Rams, I mean, obviously you got Aaron Donald and Ernest Jones, and then who knows? I mean, Byron Young, he should get plenty of opportunity year 1. I don't mind for safety. I don't mind John Johnson or Jordan Fuller, but I mean, they're like safety 4 or 5 types, 3 4s at best. Michael Hoet, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he's someone that should have a lot more opportunity. There's just nobody there. Yeah. I mean, you look at that depth chart and it's 3 guys you've heard of, and then it's, you don't recognize anyone else. So there's just not a lot of talent. Like, I mean, is there anyone you're excited about? Are you a Nick Hampton guy or anything like that, John?
No, not a big Nick Hampton guy. I'm an Ernest Jones guy and an Aaron Donald guy, and that's about it. I mean, like you said, Byron Young on the edge, I think for deeper leagues, it could be worth a flyer here. Should get a lot of volume there. But there's just nobody, right? Like Kobe Durant at corner is somebody that it's kind of interesting to me to keep an eye on. I think he should play a lot and get into the slot as well. So someone I've kind of been keeping an eye on and adding him where I can in those deeper leagues. But man, yeah, Rams defense, watching them this preseason, you don't know who's a starter and who's going to be on the fringes of getting cut because it is completely depleted over there. So it's Ernest Jones and Aaron Donald basically are the main ones for sure.
Do you think Aaron Donald finishes the year as a Ram?
Ooh, that's a good question. Man, they'd have to be looking for picks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that. Do they care about picks? They haven't shown that they've cared before, right? So they'd have to.
It'd be a good time to
now.
start. It'd be a good time to start. I mean, you look at the rosters, like maybe we should care about some picks a little bit. Maybe we should care a little more than we have been. But
yeah, if they do care about picks, I don't think that Aaron Donald will be a Ram by the end of the season because it just makes sense, right? Why would you have this guy on that team when I don't think there's a future there for this season. I'd love to be surprised because I like Stafford, I like Cooper Kupp, I like Donald, but man, that's pretty much it.
Dog, they're old. They are old. Like it's time. They're not going nowhere. I mean, I think a contender would still give a nice pick for Aaron Donald. I don't know though. Where would you want to see him go?
Oh, where would he go? That is.
I mean, it had to be a contender. I mean, no one is going to trade for him, so it'd be someone like Buffalo, Cincinnati. That they probably couldn't afford him.
Yeah, Cincinnati's got they got like DJ Reader over there, and they got BJ Hill. So they got like guys. It's not like a huge need for them. Buffalo would be interesting. Ed Oliver.
I think
Buffalo probably would make the most sense.
Any team is in on this one. Any team that has a real shot is in on this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a fun little exercise. I mean, that team is in a really bad spot, especially with the stuff about Cooper Kupp and the hamstring. Mm-hmm. It's just from a roster standpoint, it's about as bad as it gets.
Yeah, it's
being held up by these. It's being held up by these 30-year-olds that are breaking down.
Yeah, it's a tough one to watch, and at least they got a ring out of it. That's the main thing, right? So that it makes it all worth it. But yeah, at this point, there has to be consideration for a rebuild here. I mean, we're talking about potentially Jake Hummel as the LB2 over there. Nobody knows who that is, but again, deeper leagues only would be a guy that's not going to be an every down player either. So let's look at a team with maybe a brighter future here. The Seattle Seahawks in this game. Uchenna Nwosu against that Rams offensive line. Just a great matchup for him to go crazy and potentially have a big week. The other one is Boye Mafe. So he looks like he's going to be the Seattle edge too. He kind of locked that job down this offseason across from Nwosu. We'll see if he gets that same kind of heavy usage as Uchenna, but they're definitely other capable edges on this team, but it at least seems like Mafe will be the number 2 in the rotation for Seattle this year.
Yeah, I like that call as well. Bobby Wagner revenge game. I mean,
yeah.
could get
he
teams
thought he was signing
there.
up for a Super Bowl.
That's right. So I mean, Bobby Wagner, he's a locked and loaded LB1 again for the 15th year in a row. Uchenna though, like you mentioned, man, awesome opportunity for him. If you look at what he did last year against the Rams, he had both of his games, he scored over 25 fantasy points. He picked up 10 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 7 QB hits.
Oh my God.
So yes, start Uchenna. I love Julian Love this year. I think he's a solid DB 1-2 for you. Jermont Jones, someone that we've always been high on it on the IDP show. Quandre Diggs is a solid safety 3-4 for you. Not starting Jordan Brooks or Devin Bush.
Right.
Great cornerback options there in Seattle. Reek Wolin, Devon Witherspoon. Both of them should be really good this year. And then, I'm extremely excited about Derek Hall. Love me some Derek Hall, dude. I think that they got a really, really fun defense there in Seattle. And I mean, it's an underrated line. I think a lot of people aren't aware of just how good that defense is.
Yeah.
But you have, adding a top 5 corner through the draft, it's going to help all those edge rushers, and then they improve the defensive line itself. So I mean, just love what Seattle's doing. I did like Ryan Neal, but I mean, whatever. I think him and Julian Love are pretty much a wash. So, will they get anything out of Jamal Adams? I wouldn't count on it. That's someone that we were telling people to just get away from 2 years ago. So, yeah, it's a really fun defense. I love Seattle too. I mean, Seattle's one of those teams that I could see them maybe being in the Super Bowl. It sounds crazy when you have Geno Smith as a quarterback, but that defense is really good, and we know they're well coached. Yeah. I like them. I'm excited about them.
Nice. I like that call. Yeah. The defensive line is definitely underrated, like you said, because it's not built on like first round players at all. It's built on a lot of day 2 guys that have potential, right? And have flashed at times. So they're going to rotate these guys, and they're going to have their weeks as well. So just the situation to kind of monitor, at least to see who emerges there with relevant snaps, because I think they could be IDP relevant for sure. All right, let's move on from Seattle, because like you said, I'm not starting Jordan Brooks or Devin Bush either, just until we see what that usage is with Brooks coming off the injury. Let's go to the Las Vegas Raiders and the Denver Broncos. So Raiders linebacker usage, I mean, Divine Diablo is somebody that I like quite a bit this year. I do want to see if he returns to kind of being that full-time player for them. I do wonder if Robert Spillane will maybe steal any snaps or at least play enough to be IDP relevant. So that would be one of the main things that I'd be watching in this game, is the Raiders linebackers. But then we mentioned it before, Chandler Jones is probably not playing in this game. Some weird shit going on there where he bashed the team on social and then deleted it all, or he's currently away from the team. So just seems unlikely for week 1. If he is, it could mean like a heavy dose of the 7th overall pick, Tyree Wilson, this week, which, I'm not sure I'd be starting him, but at least could be a nice sample size to kind of analyze to start the year. And then obviously, Max XXX Crosby, we know we're starting every single week. He's edge 2 for me behind only Micah Parsons. But what do you think of the Chandler Jones situation?
Yeah, man, pretty wild. I mean, when you're a week away from the season starting, it's a really weird look. And I hope Tyree Wilson isn't soaking too much of that stuff up. I hope he understands that Chandler's in the wrong here, and you don't do that. You don't do that, Chandler. But I love Tyree Wilson, dude. I mean, if I was also kind of expecting a Chandler Jones bounce back, so that would be unfortunate. Although I think he will land on his feet somewhere. Mm-hmm. But if it means us getting a look at Tyree Wilson sooner, I'm all about it, dude. I love that dude. I've already got him as edge 14 in the dynasty ranks. That is behind Joey Bosa and right in front of Uchenna Nwosu. So I've got him pretty high, but I think he's good, man. I mean, it's you can't teach size like that, and the dude has been comped to Myles Garrett. Just everything we've seen, I think it points to him being potentially an elite edge rusher, and that's the type of player that you chase in IDP.
Yeah. Like you said, the measurables are just like, they're off the chart, right? I think the most likely scenario is that he maybe takes a little bit of time to kind of hit his stride in the NFL. I don't know that it'll happen this season, but I wouldn't rule it out either, because like you said, he's an athletic freak, and he certainly could come up with that production, especially if Chandler Jones is going to be out of the situation. That there's just more opportunity for him. Otherwise, playing behind Chandler Jones, there's maybe not as much opportunity on a weekly basis. So would like to see that for Tyree Wilson at least. The Raiders, other than that, I mean, I'm not starting Trayvon Merrick at safety, but Marcus Epps is somebody that's kind of interesting, at least for me. I have him at safety 27 this week. So again, that kind of safety 3-2 range, right on that fringe there. I think you could see some decent box usage. So I do like Marcus Epps, but not that interesting of a defense. Nate Hobbs is the other guy in the slot and at corner there, who I think could be a very good IDP corner this season.
I'm also interested in Robert Spillane. I mean, we'll see what the usage looks like versus Devon Diablo. But I mean, even if he gets 70% of the snaps, I mean, I'll be in at that snap share. I mean, he could easily be one of these guys that gets us 8 to 9 tackles a game, with that type of snap share. So yeah, I like him quite a bit. And he also has the upside of maybe being the guy, right? I mean, he was wearing the green dot a little bit in preseason. I know they're just trying a bunch of different stuff out, but again, it's just him and Devon Diablo. So, I mean, he has massive upside, I think.
For sure. Yeah. Spillane, definitely an interesting linebacker to kind of keep an eye on, and potentially could outsnap Diablo depending on how they view these guys. So I do like that call. And then on Denver, I mean, as far as like snap shares maybe not mattering goes, I don't know if it matters for Alex Kingleton. This guy played 70% of snaps last year and was just an unreal tackler. Josie Jewell's probably going to lead them in snaps. I love Josie Jewell this year as well, but Singleton might not even be that far behind. He's again, elite tackler. If we get an 85% plus role for Alex Singleton, then I mean, I'd have a hard time keeping him out of my top 10 linebackers every single week, just given his history of production and assuming he doesn't have like a massive regression, which is also very possible, but he hasn't shown it at any point in the last few seasons. So we love Alex Singleton. Anybody else on Denver that is interesting for you?
I think Zach Allen is pretty underrated. I mean, he's going off the board right now as DT12, which is DL48 overall. He averaged 13.4 points per game in 2022 and 10 points per game in 2021. Don't forget, Vance Joseph is in Denver now too, so Allen knows his system, and he was very productive in it. So, yeah, I mean, I think that he's a fine option. Definitely slept on. Randy Gregory, I think he's a solid edge 3-4 type. And then, Drew Sanders, I mean, someone that we're going to keep on speed dial. There's been some interesting pieces coming out about Drew Sanders lately. I think it was Cecil Lammy that wrote one saying that he reminded him a little bit of Micah Parsons, which was a lot. That's a mouthful right there. But I don't know. It makes your ears perk up. I mean, he was someone that we were definitely excited about. As a prospect, he slipped a little bit in the draft. I think most of us kind of thought he was going to be a first or second round pick, but he went to third, and it's not the worst landing spot. I mean, I know that he's got Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton there in front of him, but Josie Jewell is likely going to move on after this year. I think he just has 1 year remaining on his deal. Singleton's going to be around, but I don't think that's they're going to let Singleton hold Drew Sanders back. So someone that I'm very excited about for Dynasty. I think I already have him as like a top 15 linebacker in Dynasty. But yeah, who knows? I mean, that's not a team that is that loaded with talent to where you couldn't maybe get Drew Sanders some more opportunity, right? So just something to keep on the radar.
Yeah, and maybe they do use him on the edge too, right? This guy was, I believe, he was a 5-star prospect or a 5-star recruit coming out of high school as a defensive end, going to Alabama, right? And then when he moved to Arkansas, they used him more as an off-ball linebacker. So he's done both. It's just a matter of what they use him in the NFL and how long it takes him to get that starting role. But yeah, I'm a fan of the talent, and I think he could be a fun prospect to keep an eye on this season for sure. All right, let's go to Sunday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys at the New York Giants. Pretty good defensive line matchup here for the Cowboys. Adam, what are you looking for in this Sunday Night Football game?
Yeah, Giants O-line ranked 29th. So, I mean, expect Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence to potentially tee off. I was a lot more excited about Sam Williams, but he's currently dealing with a turf toe, and he was recently arrested. So that's a bit of a damper on his outlook. Dorrance Armstrong still there as well. He was solid last year. He's a fine rotation piece. They also have Dante Fowler still there. I mean, they've got a lot of interesting pieces on that line. LVE and Damone Clark are interesting at linebacker. I'm probably not going to be starting either of those unless I'm, in a league where you start 4 or 5 of them. But I think if I had to pick one, I'd go with LVE. LV had at least 7 tackles in 11 of his 16 games in 2022. So Damone Clark is interesting and fine, but we've just seen it with LV. I mean, we know the way he produces. He is one of these guys that can, get some sacks, get some TFLs, right, and then he does rack up the tackles. Yeah. So I'll bet on that dude versus Damone Clark, who I think was like a 5th or 6th rounder. Maybe even worse than that. But anyway, just not a guy. He's a placeholder. They're going to eventually draft somebody or bring someone in free agency. Neither one of those guys are the future there at linebacker. But for 2023, I think I choose LVE.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Van Der Esch makes the most sense. I'm not super interested in the LB2 role right now. It's just not going to be a full-time role for the way that Dallas deploys this defense. And again, I like the safeties there. I think they like their safeties, Jaron Kearse, Donovan Wilson, to get some good snaps and ideal IDP usage as well. So I have those guys both ranked inside the top 24 safeties for this week. The Giants, the LB2, another situation that I'm not overly interested in like starting this week, but maybe it could be Isaiah Simmons, who they traded for from Arizona. He was playing safety over there. Now it looks like he's going to be playing linebacker, maybe a little bit of edge over here for the Giants, with Bobby Okereke being the LB1. I know Micah McFadden and Darian Beavers are the other options. Again, not a full-time role, probably not a great one for like stable IDP production either, but they'll have their weeks, whoever does emerge there as the LB2. And then the safeties as well. I think I like McKinney more still than Jason Pinnock, who's the other guy, but I'm a lot higher on Xavier McKinney this week. I think, he was somebody that I think could have a bigger year, but Dallas was also, I think, top 3 in safety tackles allowed per game last year. So I like that potential for McKinney and Pinnock this week. But yeah, other than that, anybody else stand out for you for the Giants?
Azeez Ojulari. I mean, this is a tough matchup. He's a fine edge 3 type this week, I think. Leonard Williams, he's a nice back end DT1 for you. I'm with you. I think we wait and see on Isaiah Simmons, but I do think he could be solid there once he gets acclimated. I think you have to start Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon, and Bobby O, even though it's a tough matchup for those pass rushers. But yeah, it'll be a fun game. That's always a fun game,
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's nice that we get that one on Sunday Night Football, even though we get the Cowboys in primetime all the time. But hey, whatever. Yeah, I'm with you. It's a tougher matchup for the Cowboys, or for the Giants against the Cowboys offensive line, but hard to bench Thibodeau and some of those top end options in most leagues. All right, let's do it. One more game left. Monday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. For me, this one was interesting. Just came in basically today. Sean McDermott announced that Terrell Bernard is going to be starting next to Matt Milano as the LB2. It looked like it was going to be Tyrell Dodson that had that LB2 role locked down for week 1 after we saw the usage in the preseason. Terrell Bernard's music hits, and at the last minute was named the starter for Monday night. So at least clears that situation up nicely because it comes from Sean McDermott himself. Not an ideal matchup, looking at some of the stuff from last year and how the Jets were actually 31st in linebacker tackles allowed per game last year. So we'll see if that changes at all with Aaron Rodgers. But obviously we love Matt Milano. Terrell Bernard potentially could be another guy here that we start because it should be a volume heavy role and definitely a good option, at least for deeper leagues, but even in those middle tier leagues as well.
Yeah, it seems scary though, right? It seems like he's going to be replaced. There's just too many guys there. I mean, and none of them have really stood out. I mean, that's why you're hearing them I know Bernard has been banged up, but I mean, we're not hearing an announcement until right before the game starts because none of them has really separated themselves. So Bernard has it now, but I mean, you got to be scared to death about Christian Kirksey, who's been a fine veteran his entire NFL career. And then they brought in Dorian Williams in the 3rd round, who, as most people know, I'm a pretty big believer in. So I wouldn't get too comfortable there with Terrell Bernard. I mean, he's going to be on a short leash just because there's a lot of similar players behind him. So, yeah, he's not someone I'm going to be starting. We'll see how he does week one. Leonard Floyd is a solid option. He's someone that's always slept on. The dude has 29 sacks over his last year, over his last 3 years. That is 10th best among active NFL players. So I like him. I think he's going to be fine until Von Miller returns. But I mean, even once Von Miller returns, I think he's still going to be fine as that, third edge rusher there. I love Ed Oliver this year. I think that he's someone that we could look at as entering in like that top 5 defensive tackle territory by the time the year's over. Greg Rousseau is awesome. Jordan Poyer, a solid safety. Those are probably the targets for me on the Buffalo side.
Yeah, for sure. We know Buffalo, their defensive line, they like a good rotation there. So Gregory Rousseau and Leonard Floyd, I think for this week while Von Miller's out, I think make a lot of sense, or at least early in the season while Von Miller's out. So good call there. For the Jets, look, we know CJ Mosley. I have him as LB 15 this week. Buffalo's also another one of those teams that wasn't a great matchup for linebacker tackles per game last year. They ranked actually dead last, 32nd in that regard. But safety, next to Jordan Whitehead, we also got Tony Adams emerging as a starter here. So I think there was potential for this to maybe be like Adrian Amos or even Ashton Davis. But Tony Adams comes out of nowhere as potentially a late waiver target for those deeper leagues. So he's somebody that might be interesting there. But I think most interesting for the Jets is their defensive line rotation. I still believe in Carl Lawson, although he's questionable for this game as of right now. But we also got first rounders Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson in the mix. John Franklin Myers isn't going anywhere. But again, the top dog is and always should be Quinnen Williams. He's DT2 for me this week behind only Aaron Donald. You're just not benching Quinnen Williams. So what about you? What do you think of this defensive line rotation? Anybody that stands out to you that you want to target outside of Quinnen Williams? I think you're on mute.
Jermaine Johnson, I think he is the buzz has been great for him. So I think he's a nice, edge 3-4 type with really nice upside. Tony Adams, like you mentioned, I mean, he made Pete Schrager's breakout list, and he's kind of been like the nice little buzz for us in IDP lately. But yeah, it seems like he's going to be that other safety there alongside Jordan Whitehead. I am excited about Will McDonald. I don't think we're going to see much of him year one, just because, like you mentioned, that rotation is just out, it's out of control. I mean, you got Carl Lawson, John Franklin Myers, just a lot of Bryce Huff, a lot of who, by the way, I mean, I'm really excited for Bryce Huff in 2024 once he gets a chance to maybe go get some snaps somewhere. Cause I mean, that PFF loves that dude. But they just have too many pieces there. So it's really crowded right now. The main people I'd be focusing on would be Quinnen Williams. And then, I mean, Jermaine Johnson, I mean, on that line for this year at least. And then I love Quincy Williams. I think he's a great value at linebacker. But I guess that's about it.
Yeah, I think that is about it. And I think that makes sense. I'm with you there. But man, that is going to do it for another episode here of the PFF Fantasy Podcast and the first IDP weekly preview podcast of the year. It was a big one, but when Adam and I gets to talking about defensive players, it's bound to be a lot of content that hopefully you all find helpful to get you ready for week one, basically treating this episode as like a season preview, really, because we're going through all these situations to kind of monitor and look forward to. But Adam, I can't thank you enough for being the inaugural guest here on these weekly IDP previews. I really appreciate it, brother.
Dude, I am so honored that you selected me to do it. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully, I didn't irritate the listeners too much, and they made it through the entire episode. But yeah, absolute blast, dude. I think that you are the the best in the IDP game. Now, John, this is your full-time job, so I mean, you should be the best at it. But
got a bit of time to do it.
yes, exactly. But you're the best, dude. Thank you for everything you do for IDP, man. I think you are a huge reason that we've seen the growth that we've experienced lately in IDP.
I appreciate that, man. But I feel the same way about you guys over there at the IDP show. And I know you guys are cooking over there on the website and on the podcast feed. So appreciate the kind words, but please let the good folks know where they can find you and everything going down on the IDPshow.com this season.
Sure. Yeah. The IDPshow.com. We're going to be dropping 2 episodes a week in our podcast feed. We have the IDP After Show. We have the IDP Trade Show. We have tons of stuff going on right now. Just come check us out. Come check out the website. Tune into the podcast. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Adam IDP. Yeah, you can hit me up if you ever have any questions. Whatever, I'm here and I'm fairly friendly. So just feel free to reach out.
Love it. Yeah. Definitely go check out Adam and the guys at the IDP show. As for me, we're going to keep these episodes going every week, assuming we're not canceled by now. But next week, we got the cornerback whisperer, Johnny the Greek, coming on to preview week 2, which should be a lot of fun. You can find my IDP rankings on PFF.com. And after week 1 is wrapped on Tuesday, we'll have the week 1 version of the IDP fantasy report, previously titled the utilization report, to get you all your waiver options and usage and metrics from every IDP for every team that week. So hope you'll check that out as well. Tomorrow, I'm back in the feed once again, previewing week 1 on the offensive side of the ball with the great Kate Majuk. So be sure to tune in for that. And until then, peace out.